Springfield's Talk 1041, and welcome everyone to this Wednesday version of the show. Streaming live, KSGF.com, also on YouTube. And that YouTube channel, just search Springfield's Talk 1041, and you can find us that way if you'd like to. You can text in the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447-KSGF. Having a difficult time here with the old text account over here. Do you have trouble on yours over there?
No, it
Miss Thyra.
sounds like a you problem.
No, it's not a me problem.
Mine opened just fine.
Well, then I don't like you anymore.
Well, then I guess I'll be in charge of the text.
We have special Thanksgiving programming tomorrow, and then there will be best of programming on Friday. And I actually will be out next Monday and Tuesday. James Clary?
Yes, and Darren Chappell.
And Darren Chappell.
Yes.
Will be filling in who on which day?
Darren will be Monday, and James will be Tuesday.
Okay, there you have it. And then I'll be back Wednesday for all of the exciting developments that unfold. Kamala Harris put out a video. Some people wondering if there are rumors that she was maybe a little bit drunk as she's vacationing in Hawaii. I don't know that there have been persistent rumors that she has a drinking problem, but I don't know how much to put into that. I think, though, that sometimes when you do listen to her and you watch her, whether it's alcohol, maybe a prescription drug situation, I'll play some of the video, or some of the audio, rather. To me, you could perhaps hear a little bit in the audio, but the video, just her eyes every so often, it's nothing to me that's obvious and that, oh, yes, definitely, she is under the influence of something here. But I don't know. There's just this slight bit of off every once in a while with her. Now, to me, it isn't how she says it as much as what she's saying. And, I mean, it's I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, I do not think this is a speech you should be giving. She's trying to... Evidently, there were two speeches that were given. I say speeches. These were Zoom call style videos for supporters. And there was the grassroots folks. And then there were the very high-end donors. And apparently, the high-end donors speech, I don't know that was released, that's something that is out. But one of the individuals that was privy to it, who has actually worked as, I think, the finance director or finance communications director, involved in the fundraising and finances of the Democratic National Convention, said she was, I think stunned was the word that she used, at how just detached from reality Kamala Harris was. No accountability. They acted like everything was wonderful and that the campaign went fine. I mean, she was like, I was like, what am I sitting here listening to? And increasingly, you're having more of these behind-the-scenes people that are the ones that are upset. You've got the face of the Democrats, and while they may come out and acknowledge, well, yes, that campaign didn't go our way, and we're really going to evaluate this, you're increasingly some of these people that work, the workers, the names that you don't know, the people that are, excuse me, the non-famous mega donors, and the people who have spent their lives working in some capacity with the DNC that are coming out, and they're very upset. They feel as if the money was blown. They feel as if the Democrat Party, despite their claims that they recognize that they need to figure out a new strategy here, that they are just so out of whack and so out of touch with reality and what's going on. There's this anger that's beginning to bubble up. Now, this is good for the Republicans because it shows that there's this fractured Democrat Party that doesn't really have anybody running it. This is a big part of the problem right now. There's no one running the party. There's no person that is the default. You know, Trump obviously is in charge of the Republican Party. I mean, this is the way that it works, even if it's not some sort of official RNC position. If you are a political party and you have the White House and the president is just by default the leader of your party. And there really is no one. Prior to Biden becoming president of the United States, there was this sort of this sense that Obama was the guy, that he was the one that would emerge every so often. A lot of conversations, even through the Biden administration, and many of you believe that Biden was really the one running things, that he was really the president of the United States. And whether that was true or not, the fact that many Americans believe that to be the case indicated that even, to some degree when Biden was in the White House, Obama was still in charge. But what a lot of Democrats privately and some even publicly have noted is that Obama just has destroyed his credibility, that he has made himself irrelevant. The Clintons are irrelevant. Kamala Harris is a joke, despite the talk that she's going to run again in 2028, which I don't believe that's the case. I think that's so she can continue to stay relevant for a couple of different reasons, one of which is get speaking engagements to line her pockets. If you are somebody that is believed to be potentially the next president or at least running for president and you're relevant, it's much easier to get a $200,000 speaking fee than if you are some washed-up has-been that has no potential future in politics whatsoever. I think there's also a Governor Newsom component in there as well, but we can talk about all that later. But point being is the Democrat ship is really, truly, genuinely rudderless right now. If you were to ask those even involved, who's in charge? No one has the answer for that. And this is where I believe the Democrat Party is going to be facing something that generally they only face every so often, and that is a very messy fight. Generally, the messy fights only occur during a primary for the presidency when a Democrat is not running for re-election. We saw it in 2016, for example, and then we saw it again it was more prevalent in 2020 when you had Biden and you had Harris and you had Buttigieg and you had Tulsi Gabbard and you had Klobuchar and you had a whole, there were a number of other people in there. And it was just messiness. I mean, they're all name-calling each other. Joe Biden's a racist, the worst person ever. Tulsi's a Russian asset. You've got all of this messiness. And generally, that's the only period of time that you have on full display this massive food fight with the fingernails out within the Democrat Party. But I think we're going to be treated to that. I think we are being treated to it. Maybe it's not quite on the surface as one of those presidential cycles during a primary for the Democrat Party. But there's just no one in charge right now. And Gavin Newsom presumably is really seen as, okay, this is the guy, even though he's not right now polling very well, but that polling's irrelevant for 2028. But he at least can talk. I mean, but in terms of performance, he's leaps and bounds above Kamala Harris. The problem he has is he has presided over the state that far more than any other state Americans flee to get away from, because it's been so run into the ground. And when that right now is your prospect as a political party, and you're looking at someone like Kamala Harris, a complete embarrassment. You've got Gavin Newsom presiding over the biggest failed state in the entire union, one that people flee. I mean, they can say what they want about how wonderful it is, but people walk with their feet. That's what matters, their behavior, and they flee like refugees out of California. And so you just have a rudderless ship right now, and it is going to be interesting to see how it all hashes out. Coming up, play some of the audio of Kamala Harris giving this. It's supposed to be some sort of rally the troops speech, but it's It seems very tone deaf. And then some mega donor and finance director, DNC people, response to the way that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are behaving post-election. And it is not a good sign for the Democrats. We've got all that plus much, much more this morning. The day before Thanksgiving, weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies with a high near 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m., and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny skies with a high near 39.
A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs. And coming up this Saturday, Dustin Atwood and Sarah Myers hosting at 10 a.m. And there are podcast versions available as well. The radio version of A1 Custom Car Care. I know we mentioned, I know what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about fuel treatment.
That's right.
You're going to talk about Santa's Angels.
That's right.
And how stolen vehicles end up halfway across the world.
That's right. There you go.
All right.
You can catch all of that 10 a.m. Saturday morning.
That is the current plan of conversation.
Subject to change.
Subject to change, of course, as always. But in the meantime, that will be What's the content of the show? That'll be Saturday, and that's largely again A1 Custom Car Care. They're very, very focused on making sure that you are as best as you want to be, and as best as they can make you, an educated consumer and vehicle owner, because that can help save you time and that can help save you money. And that's what they like to do. A1 Custom Car Care, all of those car care needs. Kamala Harris, she did a sort of Zoom call. Tim Walz opened it up for her. Kamala is continuing her vacation in Hawaii while roughly 2/3 of the DNC staffers, many according to the GoFundMe page, which are single moms, were without any warning and in defiance of the promise they would have their jobs, even if Kamala lost, were fired with absolutely no severance whatsoever. But Kamala cannot be bothered to worry about that so much. She's living vacation. As Karine Jean-Pierre said, she deserves to live that vacation life. I mean, hey, she's worked really, really, really hard as vice president. She worked really, really, really hard after she had handed to her by big donors that nomination. That was very difficult. She ran, if you want to call it that, the single shortest presidential campaign in history, yet they act like she just did some real heavy lifting there and she needs some time away. Collectively, this administration is the laziest, most entitled administration I think we have ever been subject to. She made a couple of different statements. Now, there's a couple of reasons that this is going viral. Many people speculate based off of not just the audio, but the visuals, her eyes and just her body language, that she might be under the influence of something. She doesn't, to me, appear unquestionably under the influence. I can't help but wonder if it's not a prescription drug situation where you're just feeling a little bit like, not sloppy drunk or anything, but you just... It's a sort of thing where if you didn't know the person, you wouldn't notice. But if it's somebody that you know, you'd be like, something's a little off with them. And to me, that's how she comes across. Now, to many of the donors, it isn't how she came across, but the content of what it is that she said. And we'll get to some of that in a moment. But here are a couple of clips from her encouraging pep talk to the supporters of the Harris-Walz campaign.
Don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
I mean, what the hell is she talking about? You know what she is? She is the worst motivational speaker ever. This is someone that you would hire to come speak at an elementary school or a middle school.
It's literally what I was just thinking.
Would be the opening for the Power Team if they were still around. Those of you who grew up in the 90s and maybe post a bit and pre a bit know who the Power Team were. You didn't know the Power Team was,
No,
dude. So the Power Team, anyone in my era knows the Power Team. The Power Team was this group of bodybuilders, I guess. They were very fit, muscular individuals, and this was before, this was during a period of time where you could have motivational speakers come into school and talk about God, and they would, it wasn't overly God, but it was a lot about the power of, mind and everything, and they would tear phone books and things. They would do all these, that was the big one I always remember. They would tear phone books. They did all sorts of other things in order to demonstrate strength. And I don't even remember the exact messaging. I'm sure it was strength of character and so forth that they would draw into it. But I always remember the phone book being torn, and I think that's because probably at least every guy in 6th grade or 7th grade or 5th grade or whatever grade during that era of time you saw the Power Team, you went home and you got your phone book, you tried to rip it, and you couldn't do it. And so that's why the phone book thing stands out. I think it ended up being scandal plagued, and eventually the whole operation fell apart. But they were like if you had the power team come into your school, I mean, that was like the it was the Taylor Swift of motivational speakers during the late 80s, early 90s. I think I have that era correct. That Kamala is like the opening act for the power team, but one that even afterwards, the teachers standing in the back of the room with their arms folded or cutting their eyes at each other going, who is this broad? What is she? She is not even saying anything. She just does this thing where she just, you are the most amazing thing ever. Don't you ever. It's like nobody's trying to take it away from me, lady. Don't you ever let anyone tell you that your power is being taken away from you. Like, who's telling me this? What are you talking about, you crazy old bag? Can you imagine what it would have been like 4 years with this woman as president?
No, I don't want to.
The bullet we dodge. Now, this next part I find particularly entertaining, given that she lost. And while, they made some Democrats try to downplay the loss by saying, well, in reality, she didn't lose by that much. She lost every single swing state. Every single swing state. I mean, you may recall there were all the predictions, and there are these predictions about, well, now her path is this, and if Trump wins this. There was none of this, she won this and he won that. He took every one of those swings, every one of them. So that was a massive and devastating loss. So in my mind, here she is talking to these people that had been convinced that she was going to win. And here is part of her messaging to them yesterday.
A coalition where we bring people together based on a deep love of our country and our understanding that the strength of our country will be a function of our willingness to put in the work, and that we will do that work with a sense of joy, yes, with a sense of work ethic and understanding it's going to be hard, but it's good work. It's good work to be engaged in a collective fight for America's future. And it means so much to me and to Governor Walz that you knocked on doors, you called friends, you called in favors. You said, hey, I showed up at your softball game. Now I need you to show up at the campaign office. You put in the time. It was personal for you. And you gave all that you could to support our campaign. Because of your efforts, get this, we raised an historic $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion from grassroots supporters alone, the most in presidential campaign history.
So?
Why is that GoFundMe being created?
I know, right? To me, the more money you raise, the worse it is. Because you still failed. It would be one thing if you're like, hey, guys, listen, with the we were way behind the curve financially on this thing. We were the little engine that could, and despite the fact that we only raised 1/10 of the money that Donald Trump raised, and we only spent 1/10 of the money, we had so little, but you guys still came so close. Now that's kind of inspirational. But instead, with the shellacking, she's like, we raised so much money. It was awesome. We had more money than anyone had ever raised. Oh, isn't that awesome, guys? Get that. I'd be like, no, given the results, that was not awesome.
Well, and didn't the campaign even go in debt?
Well, they're $20 million.
Yeah. So it's like, okay.
I know this is
right.
this is not a bragging point right now for you. It's like you decide that you're going to do some sort of home makeover, and you're going to surprise the family with it, and it's a complete disaster. And it's clear it's a disaster. They show up and they're like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And then you brag about how much it cost. You're like, you will not believe I spent more money on this than we have in the bank. In fact, we're now $20 million in debt. Is that not absolutely incredible, the amount of money that I spent on this? That's what she's saying. And you lost miserably. This is... I don't understand how this woman's brain works. Apparently, neither do some of the behind the scenes mega donors. Some of the audio, their reaction to not just her campaign, but there were two of these little video calls done. One was a more private big donor, top people, and one of those individuals who actually worked with the finances of the DNC spoke with News Nation, and her reaction to this. I'll play it next as well. I'm Nick Reed. All right, we're going to get a traffic update, play that audio, get some of your text messages. I got my system up and running over here. 447 KSGF Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Now traffic.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies with a high around 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m., and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny with a high near 39.
Oh, I got family that's traveling through the area right now. My brother-in-law Clint texted, and my sister Allers said, we're passing through Springfield now, watching you headed to Texas.
Aw, well,
Stop
good
by
morning.
the studio, take a break. Come on.
Get some coffee.
Yeah, or I got some hot tea. I got the tea kettle going.
There you go.
I do the hot tea in the morning, yeah. So you can just swing on by here if you want. Let's see. Nick, this is the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. You may have to explain to younger listeners what a phone book is and how thick it would be. Yes, talking about Power Team earlier. Phone books were thick. It's where phone numbers were. Everything was in alphabetical order, and you would, look up Nick Reed, and there'd be the phone number, and I think home address maybe. I don't know. Maybe was home address in there? I don't know. And you could pay to have your phone number not be in it.
Now, I know what a phone book is, but I was like the tail end of
right, when they weren't used as much.
Yeah.
Do they still? I think they must still put them out.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to some of this audio. So Kamala Harris, I want to start with this one. Evidently she did 2 calls yesterday. One call, there's a lot of focus on it because many people believe that she's under the influence, that she's perhaps drunk. I think there, could be something going on there. Kind of her eyes, and it isn't even the way she says it, but just the stuff she says. But again, she's a word salad wizard, so it's hard to tell. It's sometimes difficult to tell if somebody who is just naturally a dingbat is under the influence. You're like, well, she's kind of a dingbat anyhow, so you don't know. There was another call that was done, however, with the big donors, and the Democrat National Committee National Finance Committee member Lindy Lee was on News Nation Now and was asked about that call.
She actually has 2 calls, one for herself for periods. Speaking and texting with fellow attendees of the call, and we were amazed by how self-congratulatory the tone was. I don't recall, the call was about 20, 30 minutes. I don't recall anyone taking responsibility for the fact that we spent about $2 billion across Super PAC in the campaign and came up so significantly short. We lost 7 swing states.
Self-congratulatory in what types of things were being said?
They praised Harris as a visionary leader. I believe at one moment during the call, she was talking about her Thanksgiving recipe. And I don't say this with any...
I'm sorry, even when someone describes it, it sounds like you're talking about somebody who's drunk. Like, here, this is the call, and it's about, I guess, the future direction. And you're like, well, and then she started talking about a Thanksgiving recipe. I mean, like, she's just kind of wandering all over the place during the call.
Malice or anything. I'm just merely conveying what happened. I think I was stunned to hear that, given just the extent and brutality of the loss and the fact that DNC staffers, at least two thirds have been fired summarily. And a lot of them are at a loss as to what to do. I'm just frankly stunned that there was no sort of postmortem or an analysis of how we can do better, what sort of lessons were learned. It was really just patting each other on the back, congratulating each other on I'm not sure what, and saying we'll see you for Christmas.
You can imagine, here you're devastated. You put your life on hold in order to work hard for these people. It's this, even if you're not someone who suffers Trump derangement syndrome and you recognize that he's not Hitler, it's still, you work that hard and you believe in someone, you believe in a cause. That's a hard thing to sort of navigate through, and especially if you put your life on hold. You stop whatever your normal job was in order to work a job during the campaign, and so then you're okay. Kamala's going to finally, this is going to be a conversation. We're going to hear from some of the other top Democrats, and it's sort of a regroup. You're on a team, and you have a devastating loss. And then the first time that the coach gets you all back together, you're expecting to hear, okay, listen, that didn't go well. We know that it didn't go well. We're gonna be, we spent some time going over the tapes this past week since that loss, and we've got an idea of where we went wrong. Here's some areas that we definitely need to work on. Here's what we're going to be focusing on. So that's what these people are expecting, and instead they're like, we did the most amazing thing ever. Kamala Harris is visionary. We should all be proud of ourselves. That was awesome. By the way, Kamala here has a recipe that y'all might be interested in for Thanksgiving while you shun your Trump-supporting family members. And then we'll see you at Christmas time. And so there's just this empty. Can you imagine you're on a team and you have a devastating loss, and that's what you get from your coach? Hey, guys, you did a great job. All right, keep it up. We'll see you next time. Okay, that's not helpful. There's a demonstration here in the difference in mindset between people who really do this for a full-time 100% living versus those who dedicate their time, their effort, their passions, but they have other lives. And part of the attitude that this DNC worker has versus what she was recognizing was being presented by Kamala Harris and these people, their lives they really do just continue on in the same vein. Of course, they prefer to win, but these donors, or not the donors, but the fundraising people, the people that this is their life, regardless of who's in charge, they're still getting a paycheck. They're still getting jobs. They're still, even if they lose, and have a track record of losing. These same consultants, they get the same dollar amounts, they make the same recommendations. And so for them, oh gosh, yeah, that sucks, we lost. But it's not life-altering for them. And when you have just citizens that are maybe activists, but again, they have their own jobs, they have their own families, and they put everything on hold, they're missing their son or daughter's middle school play. They're spending an entire 8 months not going to soccer games and missing out on birthday parties because they're traveling around the country trying to help fundraise. And then there's that loss. It's much more devastating. There's something deeper about it. And I think it feels like the end of something. It feels like, well, gosh, we lost that. Now what? And then they look to people like Kamala Harris and the leadership to say, here's what, now what? And instead what they're getting is, well, all right, well, we'll give it a go again. And, everything was great. Kamala Harris was this visionary leader. And I think this divide is being created there. Another one, this is a mega donor, Democrat mega donor by the name of John Morgan, and he was on with Cuomo on News Nation regarding Kamala Harris. Now, this was prior to the little Zoom call that took place yesterday with donors.
A lot of people got rich on the back of donors trying to stop Trump. And I think this disqualifies her forever. If you can't run a campaign, you can't run America. And that would be the argument just day one. So it was terrible. I think she did a good job in the debate. I think she did as good a job as she could hope for in a short period of time. I told everybody, she should not have been the nominee. She was not going to win. And she didn't win, and she lost badly. So she's got to go figure out her life. She's in Hawaii. Tim Walz was at the dinner. She was in Hawaii. So she's having a call with donors this week. They tell me about her political future. I don't think she has a political future.
This week, the the word is, oh yeah, she's going to run again in 2028. I don't think she is, and if she is, I don't think it's for the purpose of winning. I want to explain that next. Plus, finally getting just a little bit of attention, something that was disclosed weeks ago. It may have even been prior to the election, because I know we talked about it, and that is all of the money that the Harris campaign was spreading around to people in the media who were going to be interviewing her. One of them was Al Sharpton, and his network cut a check to him for $500,000. And MSNBC, they're like, well, we had no idea that was going on. And there's finally some attention being paid to all of this, what many are viewing as a pay to play. You know, you pay me, and then you're going to get something out of it. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. It's that time of year. Evidently, Christmas is when a lot of people want to buy a star for someone.
Yeah.
Because, the ads are ramping back up. And someone had texted in, I'd like to know how many stars the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, has purchased. I just have a vision of him sitting in an office with like, hey, I've got 50 stars. And we'll put those plaques right next to my 18 hole-in-one golf cards. Yeah, he's going to own the universe. Yeah, and the thing is, and I know I've mentioned this before, because sometimes out of concern and aggravation, we will get feedback like, you guys, they're playing them back to back. They send them, they're 30-second spots, but they send them together as one 60-second. And I say they send them. A lot of the ads that we run, it's called barter, and that is what we do in order to have permission to run shows. So, for example, whether it's Glenn Beck or Dana Lash or Sean Hannity, we don't pay to run those. We have to run so many commercials. They send some of the commercials air in the show itself, but others they send us, and then we have to air 20 a week between these hours and so forth. And that's the payment, if you will, because then those advertisers, the more stations they're on, the more they pay the providers, and that's how they get their money instead of getting it from from the radio stations. And so we don't have any control over those ads. That's also why you hear the ads like, right, the vaccine ads. And like, why in the heck are you guys airing those? We're just obligated. If we don't, then we can't air the shows like Hannity or Levin or whichever one of these shows. And they don't really have control over that either. That's not content or ad space that they have any say over. It's the people who provide the shows, who pipe the shows out and allow us to air it. So that's why sometimes you hear it and you're like, it's back to back. That's the way they send them. It's very aggravating. At this time of year, yeah, I guess it's a time when lots of people want to buy stars.
Season.
'Tis the season to buy a star. I want to buy the North Star. That's what I want to buy, specifically that one. And I will not rest till I have it. Earlier this week, or perhaps last week, there was word that Kamala Harris is going to be running in 2028. Now, this came on the heels of a poll that was done. Democrat voters, whom would you support in 2028? Kamala Harris was number one. I don't even remember the breakdown. And then behind her was Gavin Newsom. Pete Buttigieg was in there. I forget. There were a couple of other names. Now, that stuff is totally meaningless. 100% meaningless. It would be almost meaningless if it were a year away, the presidential election. But, Trump's not even sworn in yet. So much can obviously change between then and now. So subsequent to that, you had these reports that, nope, she's planning on running. If she does run, it's only to be relevant so that she can make money or get a position in California. A lot of times people run for office because they have a book coming out. Sometimes people publish a book with a release date around the ramp up to announcing in order to bolster their notoriety so that they can get some traction and attention as they make an announcement for a run. So that door does swing both ways. But Kamala Harris, would you hire her for Pete's sakes? I don't care what the job is. It's not like a Hillary Clinton or someone that, you can list this storied resume that she has and, first this Secretary of State and first that and so forth and so forth. Kamala, there's not a whole lot there. I don't think she's got a lot of star power, regardless of what it is that the Democrats oftentimes try to tell themselves. So speeches are a big thing. I'm sure she's wanting to get revenue coming in, and it's much more difficult to get a $200,000 speaking gig if you are a washed-up nobody as opposed to if you're running for the presidency. Even if you're not seen as somebody that has a real shot at it, you're still somewhat relevant. Gavin Newsom also obviously wants to run. I could see Kamala Harris throwing her name out there in order to make it a little more competitive so that Gavin Newsom, leverage it to get Gavin Newsom support to be governor of California or to be in some, she's done the U.S. Senate thing. She's done the Attorney General thing in California. I would imagine governor of California would be, if she were going to run for any office in California or anywhere, that would really probably be the only one. And I could see throwing my name out there and have the polls showing, I'm doing better than Gavin Newsom again, and it's so far out, but just positioning it that way Gavin Newsom has a reason to try to get you out of that, and then he could have something to offer, like supporting you for governor, getting the machinery behind you, get all of those players, the kingmakers in California, like, okay, you drop out in order to create a greater clear path for Gavin Newsom, and then we will make sure that you're the next governor. So a lot of times people will run for these positions for leverage sake, or even get a cabinet position. These primaries you see sometimes, you're like, why doesn't this person drop out? They're only getting 5% or 7% of the vote. Well, when the top two contenders in a primary are within that margin, those votes become valuable. And so while the the lower tier candidate for the presidency in a primary may not have a shot to be president or get the nomination, their 7% of the vote is extremely powerful. And so they will stay in the race so that they are of value to the person who might make it to the White House. And then, all right, well, I'll drop out, release my delegates. It sure would be nice to be transportation secretary or whatever it is. And so many times throwing the hat in the ring and even running, knowing that you don't have a chance to win, is done just so that you can leverage that in order to get some sort of job. And I suspect that's what she's doing. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line. Why do the Democrats even care about who's running in 2028 since Trump is going to cancel all elections? That is true. That's a good point. It's weird for the media to even do these polls about 2028, given that Donald Trump is going to be a dictator and cancel all future elections. Yesterday or the day before, we talked about the DNC up and firing about 2/3 of its staffers because they've gone flat broke. No money, just millions and millions of dollars in the hole. Now, these are people that also they were promised that regardless of the outcome, they would have jobs. They could rely on that income. That turned out to be a lie. They were fired without warning, no severance whatsoever. And so they belong to a union. Apparently, that wasn't too helpful in any capacity, zero capacity. GoFundMe was set up for them, and the goal was $25,000. This was set up a week ago. Seemed like a small goal. Perhaps it was a realistic one because they still haven't hit that. Yesterday, was it yesterday or Monday we talked about this?
It was yesterday.
Yesterday we talked about this, and it was just under 17,000. It was 16,000 and something. Now, it has gotten a tremendous amount of news coverage. I mean, this is all over the subject matter about how these people got fired, that they're broke, that these are, in the GoFundMe description, single moms. Some of these people, dire straits, have no idea where their next paycheck is going to come from. These are individuals that have families, some of them. So 24 hours of, a lot of talk about this. And it's at $17,991. So roughly $1,000 have been across this country by Democrats. The Democrat Party, that is the party of charity. We're told that conservatives are so stingy. Republicans don't want to help the poor. These are their own people. Their own people. The description notes that it is a relief fund which will directly aid staff members, including single parents and workers expecting children, not mothers, but workers, impacted by the recent layoffs. The funds raised will be distributed equally to any laid-off member who opts in to receive the funds. We hope these funds can soften the economic blow for those impacted. I mean, what does this say about the Democrat Party? Number one, that after promising these people they would have a job, they fired them. No severance whatsoever. Because of one of two things. Either they've completely and totally mismanaged money, so they're incompetent financially, or they're just greedy and they don't want to pay these people. Combination of both, perhaps. But with national coverage of expecting mothers, single moms, and they can't in 24 hours raise any more than around $1,000 amongst all of the Democrat donors out there? Jiminy Christmas. I mean, I'm shocked by that. I thought that, and this is a week into this. I thought, you have a goal of 25,000 and it would make news because, it's 400,000 in donations, 1.2 million in donations, that you would have all these compassionate, caring individuals on the left who care so much about helping the downtrodden. Yeah, they're nowhere to be found. I guess they're all tapped out, paying all that money to Oprah, Beyonce, and the celebrities. And Al Sharpton, pay-to-play scandal ricocheting around the halls of MSNBC insider says cannot be acceptable. Oh, yeah, right. Now, this revelation is not new. We went through a number of these payments that were made by the Kamala Harris campaign to reporters and interviewers before the interviews were given. It's just, for whatever reason, it's starting to get some actual attention. Fox News has a story. The growing scandal plaguing MSNBC host Reverend Al Sharpton has been ricocheting around the halls of 30 Rock, with his colleague calling it a bridge too far for them. On Tuesday, MSNBC claimed that it was unaware that Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign passed $500,000 to Sharpton's National Action Network ahead of a friendly interview with the Democratic nominee just weeks before the election. An MSNBC spokesperson told the Washington Free Beacon MSNBC was unaware of the donation made to the National Action Network. Now, if MSNBC were an ethical institution, Al Sharpton would be immediately taken off the air. If not for taking $500,000 from the campaign before the interview, for not disclosing it. Here you are, a network, and one of your lead people, I mean, he has his own show on MSNBC. He's not just some contributor that is not employed by MSNBC. He is employed by MSNBC. So you, not only do you find out, but the world finds out one of your employees took $500,000 from a presidential campaign before he sat down and did an interview. How is that not completely fireable? I mean, I don't care who it is. Well, we didn't know. Well, those crazy kids, they just do whatever they want to. The thing about this, and we're going to get an update on the news here in traffic, this is Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton's entire career has been taking money from businesses, from people, from campaigns in exchange for either being friendly with them or not attacking them. There was a book written, 10, 15 years ago, an entire book on what a shakedown artist he is. So MSNBC can't be surprised by this. I mean, if they really, truly did not know this, of course they're not surprised. This is how he makes his money. Jesse Jackson was the exact same way. There are also, and we're going to get to this, Washington Examiner, news outlets take undisclosed union cash. And so it's not just an Al Sharpton issue. There's a piece regarding a number of mostly left-wing news outlets that were quietly taking money, oftentimes just declared as a donation, not even buying advertising, from unions, and then subsequent to, well, look at this. They did a nice story about the union, how great this union is, how wonderful the union is. It is going from bad to worse for national media in this country. And the things that are being revealed, this is not new behavior. It's just becoming exposed, which is a positive thing.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we do have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies with a high around 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny skies with a high near 39.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed, and welcome to the show. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Oh, someone texted, and this is a great point. It's a sad point, but it's a great point. The lack of ability to raise any funds from Democrats in order to try and alleviate any of the economic damage the DNC has done by firing 2/3 of its staff. And they list that there are some expecting mothers, they say workers, that the funds will go in order to help those who are expecting. And someone had texted in, if they were raising money for those mothers to abort their babies, Democrats would be writing checks as fast as they could. How sad and true is that? Here they can't, they're struggling in a 24-hour period, just around $1,000, despite all the national attention it's gotten. And they cannot get Democrats to donate money. But if you had said this was for abortion, I bet you over $1 million they would have raised. How sad is that? MSNBC is coming under increased scrutiny because Al Sharpton took $500,000 from the Kamala Harris campaign before interviewing her. Now, it went to his National Action Network, but this is his money. MSNBC is claiming we had no idea. Now, they act as if that's not a problem. That absolves them. If they would immediately fire him, at least they could say, yeah, this is unacceptable behavior. But they act as if, well, we didn't know it, so what are you going to do? Harris sat down for a friendly interview October 20th with Sharpton, an open supporter of Harris and Democrat Party. Following Harris's defeat to President-elect Donald Trump, FEC filings revealed the Harris campaign gave two $250,000 donations to Sharpton's organization in September and October. However, the MSNBC weekend host did not disclose to viewers the apparent conflict of interest before or after the interview. Neither did he disclose the donations to his bosses at the network, according to the Free Beacon. A current MSNBC employee said no one's surprised that anybody at MSNBC was rooting for Harris. This feels like another level of nonsense. Like, you're kidding me, right? This is weird. This is not weird. This is Al Sharpton. The people, the employees at MSNBC who are saying, well, this is just too far. This doesn't make any sense. This is very odd and unusual this would happen. Either are very, very naive and ignorant when it comes to Al Sharpton and how he has even become relevant in our society, or they're lying. There was a book. I grabbed an article from the New York Post. I think this was 2015. Let's see, when was the date? I don't have the exact date on here, but I think it was around 20. Yeah, okay, it was. January 4th, 2015. How Sharpton gets paid to not cry racism at corporations. Want to influence a casino bid? Polish your corporate image? Not be labeled a racist? Then you pay Al Sharpton. For more than a decade, corporations have shelled out thousands and thousands of dollars in donations and consulting fees to Sharpton's National Action Network. What they get in return is the Reverend's supposed sway in the black community, or more often, his silence. Sony Pictures co-chair Amy Pascal met with the activist preacher after leaked emails showed her making racially charged comments about President Obama. Pascal was under siege after a suspected North Korean cyber attack pressured the studio to cancel its release of the movie The Interview, which depicts the assassination of dictator Kim Jong-un. Pascal and her team were said to be, quote, shaking in their boots and afraid of the Rev, the New York Post reported. No payments to the National Action Network, known as NAN, have been announced, but Sharpton and Pascal agreed to form a working group to focus on racial bias in Hollywood. Sharpton notably did not publicly assert his support for Pascal after the meeting, what observers say seems like a typical Sharpton shakedown in the making. Pay him in cash or power, critics say, and you buy his support or silence. Quote, Al Sharpton has enriched himself and the organization for years by threatening companies with bad publicity if they didn't come to terms with him. Put simply, Sharpton specializes in shakedowns. This, according to Ken Bohm, chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center, a Virginia-based watchdog group that has produced a book on Sharpton. And Sharpton, who now boasts a close relationship with Obama and Mayor Bill de Blasio, is in a stronger negotiation position than ever. Remember, this is in 2015. A source who has worked with the Harlem Preacher said once Sharpton's on board, he plays the race card all the way through. He just keeps asking for more and more money. One example of Sharpton's playbook has emerged in tax filings and a state inspector general's report. Back in 2008, Plainfield Asset Management, a Greenwich, Connecticut-based hedge fund, made a $500,000 contribution to New York nonprofit Education Reform Now. That money was then immediately funneled to Al Sharpton's group. The donation raised eyebrows, although the money was ostensibly to support the organization's efforts to bring educational equality. It also came at a time that Plainfield was trying to get a lucrative gambling deal in New York. And then this particular piece gets into the weeds about money being shifted around and the influence that Al Sharpton used in order to line his pockets. The Post continues, Sharpton raised $1 million for his organization on his 60th birthday bash back in October when donations rolled in from unions and corporate rosters of contributions, including AT&T, McDonald's, Verizon, Walmart. Companies have long gotten in line to pay Sharpton. Macy's and Pfizer have forked over thousands to his network, as has General Motors, American Honda, and Chrysler. Sharpton, in a 2000 email to Honda as part of the shakedown, said, "We cannot be silent while African Americans spend hard-earned dollars with a company that does not hire, promote, or do business with us in a statistically significant manner." His organization has repeatedly and without success asked General Motors for donations for 6 years, beginning in August of 2000, a GM spokesman told the Post. Then in 2006, Sharpton threatened a boycott over GM over the planned closing of an African-American-owned dealership in the Bronx. He picketed outside GM's Fifth Avenue headquarters. GM wrote a check to Sharpton's organization for $5,000 in 2007 and another $5,000 in 2008. Sharpton targeted American Honda in 2003 for not hiring enough African Americans in management positions. Sharpton wrote the company, "We support those who support us. We cannot be silent while African Americans spend their hardworking dollars with a company that does not hire, promote, or do business with us in a statistically significant manner." 2 months later, car company leaders met with Sharpton, and Honda began to sponsor his organization's events. The protest stopped. Sharpton landed a gig as a $25,000 a year advisor to Pepsi after he threatened a consumer boycott of their company in 1998, saying its ads did not portray African Americans. He held the position until 2007. Now, these are just drawing from excerpts from an entire book. That has been his job. This is how Al Sharpton operates. This is how he makes money. Now, of course, he really shot to fame on a national level with what many of you may remember, the Tawana Brawley incident, in which he falsely and conspired with a black girl to falsely accuse police officers of raping her. And he was on, I think it was, he was a regular guest on, I want to say, Morton Downey Jr.'s show. That's where he really got his start in fame. Morton Downey Jr. was a daytime TV talk show host that smoked on set. He was a real loudmouth. and I believe it was his show, and I think Geraldo as well, or perhaps Geraldo's, that he was constantly on there, and he was really getting himself a little bit of star power, and then he started using that star power to threaten different businesses and people. If you do not cut me a check, then we will call you a racist, and then, of course, the media will cover it, and the problem is the media is the culture and the institution that has given him this power. Because anytime Al Sharpton, and again, Jesse Jackson operated in the same way, would point the finger and show up at a picket with signs accusing some company randomly of racism, even though they had done nothing wrong whatsoever, the media would cover it and portray the company as being racist until the companies got out their checkbook, wrote a check to Al Sharpton's National Action Network organization, and then the protest would go away. So the fact that he's on MSNBC, Kamala Harris, prior to the election, wants an interview with them, and so the campaign cuts him $2 $250,000 checks before the interview. This is Al Sharpton. And for MSNBC to be like, well, we just really don't understand this at all. We had no idea, really. Doesn't say much regarding the investigatory skills of your journalists at MSNBC if you're caught off guard that Al Sharpton would do something like this. He's not the only one that hands money to news organizations in exchange for, or who takes money, rather. You know, these news networks themselves. After the break, the Washington Examiner has a piece, news outlets take undisclosed union cash. And then coincidentally would write these wonderful propaganda stories about those unions and their causes. Wilder RV, Clinton, Missouri, end of the year deals. I would visit their website, check out what's available. Many of you probably head up to Kansas City around Christmas time. Maybe it's tradition for shopping, maybe to visit family, and you're going to pass through Clinton, Missouri. I'd stop at Wilder RV, take a few minutes, get to know the folks there. Maybe you can, again, start that new lifestyle of RV. And it doesn't mean us to take over, but just the ability to get out, get away, even if it's 30 miles away. It's, Table Rock, or if you want to go to Lake of the Ozarks or any of the campgrounds in the area, just to kind of get away from it all, be able to get out in nature while at the same time still having the luxury of home life at this, that's a good combination. You could have a tent outside. You could still have the RV. Maybe you're for the tent and the RV's for your wife. It just depends on your personal preference. But it is more affordable than most people realize. You can get for what would be the cost of one hotel room in Kansas City, or even in the Springfield area, a monthly payment on a family-sized RV. Wilder RV, Clinton, Missouri. You can find them at ksgf.com and wilderrv.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies with a high around 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m., and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny with a high near 39.
Got a text from the Pyramid Roofing Company talking text line saying, man, Nick Reed called it, and it's an article. Fox News, huge misstep. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says Harris's decision to campaign with Liz Cheney, a name synonymous with war, cost her support from the left. I mean, it was such an obvious thing. It was so obvious, I was dumbfounded. And I actually read through a couple of these different articles about Ilhan Omar arguing that potentially at least helped her lose the election, citing Michigan, Wisconsin in particular. And I think if there was one aspect of the campaign, like one just singular decision, everybody keeps talking about the Joe Rogan thing. I just think the dumbest move wasn't not going on Joe Rogan. I think going on Joe Rogan would have been a dumber move than her not going on Joe Rogan. But it was campaigning with Liz Cheney in Michigan and Wisconsin. I just, are you out of your mind? In Wisconsin, they had to, because it was drawing the liberal wing of the party to vote for Jill Stein. So the Harris campaign had to spend money running ads in Wisconsin telling Democrat voters don't vote for Jill Stein. She was literally campaigning against herself. Never seen anything like it. It's a pretty amazing, remarkable thing, if I do say so myself. I want to go back here, and I'm going to get to this Washington Examiner piece, but the autopsy of the Kamala Harris campaign that's being done, and so many of them are saying that, well, she should have gone on Joe Rogan. Not if she wanted to win. I mean, not going on it wasn't going to help her, obviously, anyhow. But to me, saying that her going on Joe Rogan would have helped her win is no different than believing that if she had more time to campaign, she would have won. No. Can you imagine her on 3 hours with Joe Rogan? Are you kidding me? There's no way that would have helped her. No way it would have helped her. But they get, live in this fantasy land. All they want. We're talking earlier in the hour about the Kamala Harris campaign writing $250,000 checks to Al Sharpton's organization in the 2 months preceding the interview she did with him on his MSNBC. And these were disclosures that came weeks ago, but it's just starting to get some attention. There are folks who are speaking anonymously at MSNBC about how this doesn't seem right. I think some of this criticism from anonymous sources is also just anger at MSNBC. They're talking about, well, they're going to be sold off. There are some of them, they're mad at Joe Scarborough and Mika because they went Trump. And so I think that there's just a lot of anger right now going on. So you have the willingness to come out and swing at people like Al Sharpton, but it's MSNBC. MSNBC, oh, we didn't know. We didn't know. This isn't an isolated incident for Sharpton or the media. The exchange of money. The Washington Examiner reporting that a trio of publications have raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars from teachers' unions over the past couple of years, a fact that is not disclosed in their positive coverage of those same unions. The New Republic, American Prospect, and Courier Newsroom have collectively accepted $905,000 since 2022 from the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, according to the union's financial disclosures. After accepting the cash from the two largest teachers' unions in the nation, each of the outlets went on to publish pieces painting them in a positive light without disclosing the funding arrangement. By the way, this sort of thing, if this were done in radio, you would go to prison for it. It's called pay to play. This is in, and I don't know, maybe in journalism this isn't illegal to take cash quietly, not tell anyone, and then write positive stories. But you cannot, without full disclosures or part of actual advertising campaigns. This is something that cannot be done in radio. In fact, this started with decades ago, whenever you would have DJs that would take money in order to play records, and that's something that was made illegal. So for news outlets to take money from organizations or campaigns and then give them access to airtime or write positive stories about them is the sort of thing that in some industries you would go to prison for. The Courier Newsroom, which runs a dark money-funded network of left-leaning publications operating out of 11 swing states, received a $500,000 donation, or received $500,000 from the NEA and $35,000 from the AFT between 2022 and 24. Following the donations, and by the way, this is listed as donation, not advertising. Just here's money, do with it what you want. Following the donation, the Courier's outlets in Arizona, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Iowa, North Carolina, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Texas all published stories portraying the NEA favorably. Cardinal and Pine, Courier's North Carolina outpost, published a video on its website in March of NEA President Rebecca Pringle explaining the importance of teaching school children that the United States is systemically racist. The article accompanying the video makes no mention that the NEA had wired $500,000 to the Courier in just a few years, or just over a few years' time. Meanwhile, Courier's New Hampshire newsroom, Granite Post, framed the NEA and AFT positively in a May story about a court battle over classroom book bans. Dogwood, Courier's publication in Virginia, published a piece in June arguing that the NEA-backed collective bargaining effort would improve student learning. Neither of these outlets nor any of Courier's other publications that mention the teachers' unions disclosed Courier's financial transactions with the AFT and NEA in their coverage of the organizations. Mike Watson, research director at the Capital Research Center and an expert on organized labor, told the Washington Examiner, all these outlets rely on patronage and advertising from ideologically aligned donors and groups to stay afloat, so of course the teachers' unions are supporting their ideological allies. The New Republic accepted $225,000 from AFT between August of 2023 and April of 2024, according to financial disclosures. Subsequently, the publication ran multiple pieces presenting both the union and its president, Randy Weingartner, in a positive light. One such story, published in October of 2023, amplifying Weingarten's argument that conservative efforts to ban sexually explicit books from public schools are part of a broader scheme to destroy government education. Nowhere in that piece did the outlet disclose its financial benefit of or from AFT. The New Republic also ran a joint banned book tour with the AFT around the time they ran the article, which the piece does mention. The publication ran two more pieces in August, compiling labor leaders' praise of Governor Tim Walz shortly after he was named the Democrat Party's vice presidential nominee. The stories contain praise for Walz from the AFT, again without disclosing the publication's financial relationship with the union. After the Washington Examiner reached out to the New Republic for comment, the outlet added parenthetical disclosures to some of the pieces, noting that AFT had recently sponsored or co-sponsored some of the publication's events. The scheme by NEA and AFT is another example of union bosses taking the dues money of teachers they claim to represent and pumping it into ideologically motivated activities designed to promote their coercive and dysfunctional agenda, National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation Vice President Patrick Simmons said in a statement to the Washington Examiner. And the piece goes on to break this down, but the point being here is and I don't know if one side, listen, I suppose you could argue that the union is utilizing those dollars in a way that are beneficial to the union. You pay news outlets to get good coverage. You pay news outlets whenever you have the union, for example, fighting against people who want to ban pornography from elementary schools. You pay a news outlet to do a story that portrays it as a book ban that looks good for you. So you are paying for news outlets to help you with your cause. Maybe unethical, maybe immoral, but if you're the union, you can argue, hey, we're kind of doing what we're supposed to do. But if you're a news outlet and you're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from entities and then subsequent to that write stories as if they're news that help the person or the institution that is paying you look good and get their goal done, there's no excuse for that. You can't claim, well, we're just doing what we're supposed to do, and that is provide straightforward news to our viewers or to our readers, because that's not what this is. I think after the most recent presidential election, a significant portion of the American population woke up and saw what so many of us have seen for some time, but we were written off as crazy, as conspiracy theorists who just hate the news and this fake news stuff. Donald Trump made all of this up. And, well, you listen to RFK Jr.'s vice presidential candidate, who is a Democratic fundraiser for her majority of her adult life, saying that, that she used to believe that stuff too. She used to believe that the accusations of the news and the way that the news was covering for lawfare and how the deep state was targeting Trump. She believed the media until it started happening to her and RFK Jr. People are beginning to really pay attention. And I think because of that, there are going to be more disclosures of this financial relationship between presidential campaigns and hosts on networks like MSNBC, or teachers' unions and newspapers that are cutting them checks for positive coverage. And people are going to increasingly recognize that, listen, NBC, all of these networks, they have the right to exist. They have the right to be as biased as they want to be. But that doesn't mean that Americans have to go to them for news. And Americans are increasingly recognizing that if you want to be informed in an honest manner, the places that we went to 20, 30 years ago are not the places that we can go to today. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Santa's Angels. There we go. Sound like cross between Kamala and Joe Biden. Joe Biden, he was speaking yesterday or the day before, and I kid you not, for this brief moment, I was like, I forgot he was president. Not for a long one. I was like, what's he do? Oh, that's right. He's still president. He was speaking about this ceasefire between the country of Lebanon and Israel. And, subsequent to my, oh yeah, he's still president, I'm like, why the hell are you even talking about this anyway? I mean, you are so irrelevant. So completely irrelevant. I thought of Joe Biden just now because I had a hard time saying Santa's Angels. Santa's Angels, this is an effort that we undertake every year in order to give it's not just about Christmas or Christmas gifts to kids that don't have parents or who have parents they've been taken away from because of abuse or neglect, or perhaps their parents have been hauled off and taken to prison for illegal activities. It's never ever a good situation, and because that occurs in with the the foster care system, so often these kids do not get Christmas gifts. Some of them haven't their whole lives. They're I mean, I hate to be too graphic or dark about it, but their parents utilize any sort of Christmas gift money for drugs, oftentimes. And so, these kids, while so many other kids go to school, first day back from Christmas break, and they're wearing their new shoes they got for Christmas, and they, got their new headphones they got for Christmas, and everybody's talking about. You probably did the same thing. You see your friends for the first time, and so you're talking about what you got for Christmas, and then there are kids that didn't get anything, and you know what happens when that happens? They make stuff up because they're embarrassed that they got nothing for Christmas, that no one got them anything, and so they make things up. It's just, it's a horrible thing, but it happens. It's reality. And there are a lot of tremendous organizations out there that gather up. You see the boxes, you see the, just put donations, and then they distribute those to kids and to families that maybe the family does have parents, but financially they can't afford gifts, so that way they can give the gifts to their own kids. But what we do is a little bit different, and that is we have the kids. We get first name, age, and then a list. If somebody were to ask you, if you had a family and you had a Christmas wish list, what would that look like? And then we get that to you, and we ask that you adopt one or more if you want kids, and get them at least one item on the list, because it's not so much about the gifts as it is, for many of them, the first time somebody asking and wanting to know what they want for Christmas. And that, to so many of us, we don't realize how much that can mean, because we have families that love us. We have people that get us things. They want to get us things. And so we just can't necessarily understand that impact. That's the way we do it now. We've got trees with paper ornaments and kids on each of the ornaments at a number of our partner locations: Anchor Tactical Supply, which is on Campbell, A1 Custom Car Care in Republic on 60, Crown Power and Equipment, and that's Chestnut Expressway almost to Glenstone, Greene County Freight on Kearney, and Pinnager Chevrolet in Republic. That is also on 60, which most things in Republic are that are businesses, most. So if you stop by any of those locations, and we ask that you do that, pick up one or more of those kids. All the instructions are on the back of the tag, how it is to carry that out, and we appreciate it so greatly for Santa's Angels this year. Special Thanksgiving programming tomorrow. We will have Best of Friday. So we will not be at Scramblers this Friday. It's our traditional day after Thanksgiving programming. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, a Christmas gift to yourself. If you're looking to sell your home or buy your home, is to get in touch with Emily Johnson. She's awesome. She's incredible. A gift to someone else, Christmas or otherwise, who is looking to sell their home, but they don't know, with all the names out there, all the realtors out there, just don't know where to go. You can guide them towards Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. I recommend that you follow her on social media. She posts a lot of really great information, even if you're not buying or selling, but just for homeowners, ways to upkeep your home, ways to maintain the quality of your home. There are certain things that you may not think of, and if you don't do them all the time, then you're going to have to, replace those things, or it's going to cost you more in the long run. And that's what you get with Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Two Kamala Harris supporting celebrities over the last 24, 48 hours trashed on Americans. One being Alec Baldwin. In Italy, yes, film festival. It's the Torino Film Festival in Italy. And he called Americans very uninformed about the realities of climate change, the war in Ukraine, other globalist issues. Now, this is a guy that, because of his wealthy celebrity status, puts out more pollution than most average people combined with their entire block puts out in a lifetime. I mean, you can, all you want, point the finger and say that we average folk are ignorant, but you're putting out more pollution than any of us. So if that even were true, and we were the ones who just don't understand the realities of man-made climate change, and you do, what does that say about you when you willingly go out and create more man-made pollution than most of us combined with our entire neighborhoods? It's like somebody who is, who is pro-life personally, but they're like, well, I still think it should be a choice, versus somebody who doesn't believe that it's an actual life. Like, they're wrong, but at least in their minds, they aren't killing someone, as opposed to someone that's like, no, I know it's a life, but I still believe in abortion. Like, that's worse. For Alec Baldwin to be like, hey, I truly understand what a horrible thing we're doing to the planet, unlike you ignorant hicks, and then he gets on his private jet and flies to do a press conference in Italy to promote a film in which, during the filming of, he shot and killed someone because, oopsie daisies, I didn't know it was loaded. You think about that. I mean, you really want to paint people as ignorant when someone is dead because your excuse was ignorance? Alec Baldwin's entire defense was, I just didn't know it was loaded. And of course, what do you do if you find a firearm and you don't know it's loaded? You point it at someone and pull the trigger. Maybe if instead of trashing on the NRA, Alec Baldwin actually went through some of the firearm safety courses offered by the NRA, that human being wouldn't be dead today. It just doesn't seem like a very wise position to take, painting people with whom you disagree as being ignorant when you killed someone based off your self-proclaimed ignorance. Sharon Stone, Trump won because of uneducated Americans who don't travel abroad. Speaking recently at a press conference, same film festival, she delivered what was described as a Kamala-esque word salad lecture on the recent presidential election. At one point, she swerved her high horse into a truly bizarre tangent about the importance of distinguishing good men versus bad men, seemingly attacking on men who voted for Trump who are bad in her view. She kicked things off by comparing the incoming second Trump administration to fascism under Mussolini. The actress then gave her description of the kinds of people she thinks voted for Trump. She said, "We haven't seen this before in our country. Well, yeah, we did in 2016, but that aside, she continued, so Americans who don't travel, who 80% don't have a passport, who are uneducated, who are in their extraordinary naivety. What is telling about this presentation from these rich Hollywood elites that we are all ignorant. And that's the problem here. Is that they really truly are ignorant, and they fully acknowledge that when they say, well, I just don't understand why. I don't understand how people could. And that's ignorance. When you are without understanding, when you don't have the knowledge of something, that is ignorance. These people generally, not always, are in a bubble that isolates them from life experiences that are wider in scope for the average American than they generally experience. Most people in this country, most, not all, but most, the average American comes across all walks of life. They work with all walks of life, live around all walks of life, come into contact with all walks of life, left, right, middle. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a willful congregation of like-minded people, but most of us work with somebody that is political differences, religious differences, but political specifically. Or we have, our neighbor is a different political belief. Some people we go to church with, some of our VFW buddies, some of our Tupperware party friends. There's just in walks of life, we will come across these people. Generally, the Alec Baldwins and the Sharon Stones, they have blocked themselves off from any diversity of belief and thought. Yet they say that those of us who walks amongst one another are the ignorant ones. They act as if we lack the real life experience when many of them couldn't even tell you the name of someone they know personally that has a diverse perspective than they do. Back in, it was years ago, I've been out to California just once. And it was to go to the Grammys. And I was having a conversation afterwards with this gal. Maybe she was in her 30s. She worked for CBS. And she had never been really outside of Los Angeles. And we were just in the evening having the conversation. And she, just as serious as could be, said, is it true that you can just be driving around in Missouri and see a cow? And I was like, well, yeah. And she said, I've never seen a cow. Now, obviously, she had seen one on television, but in real life, she had never seen a cow before. And that revelation caused me to reflect on, what does worldly mean? And you have people, particularly those that live in the cities, they really consider themselves to be so cultured and so worldly. And then they look at people in flyover country, particularly country folk, as bumpkins that are simpletons who don't have any real experiences in life. And I thought, what a contradiction that perception is when here I meet somebody from the worldly, sophisticated media world of Los Angeles, and she's never even seen a freaking cow. Now, that doesn't make farm folk, rural folk, flyover folk any more superior. But it just really made me recognize that you oftentimes, and it is people on the left, and they live in the city, so they think that they're just so much more sophisticated and so much more worldly. And this is Sharon Stone's point. Oh, these uneducated Americans, because they don't travel, they don't know any better. You think Sharon Stone would know what to do if she got a flat tire? You think of the things that these people who look at us as ignorant could never, ever manage to do on their own because they always have someone do it for them, or who have never seen a cow in real life. And it's not a matter of better or worse. It's just different. And whenever people like Alec Baldwin and Sharon Stone and other people that are rich, wealthy on the left look at you and me as ignorant people, they really are the truly ignorant ones in the sense that they don't even know what life is like for the vast majority of Americans. So no wonder they can't figure out why Donald Trump got elected president. It's a very, very isolated life. It's a prison cell that they've crafted for themselves that lock them away from what the vast majority of human beings on this planet go through. Yet they look down on us. Got traffic in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we do have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies with a high around 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny with a high near 39.
Special Thanksgiving programming tomorrow during the show. Friday, we will have Best Of. Just heads up for you there. I want a great homeloan.com, all of those home loan needs. You may be hosting folks for Thanksgiving in your home and think, man, we need more space, or maybe you do not need as much as you did once upon a time. And so you're thinking of downsizing, upsizing. Home loans come into play, and your place to get all of that information is I want a great homeloan.com, because you do. Have you ever heard of Scott Pressler?
Sounds familiar.
Maybe you have. So Scott Pressler, he's the only thing that's more interesting to me than him is the way that the media tries to navigate him. So Scott Pressler is credited with helping Donald Trump win because he, in among other swing states, Pennsylvania, really he's got a tremendous amount of followers,
Yes.
did a huge get out the vote push, getting people registered to vote. He was instrumental in getting the Amish out to vote because he really communicated with them that you could do it in private, you could do it. And he's also a homosexual. So you've got like this. I love this about the Trump people. I just, the cross section of Americans that found themselves allied with one another, that we have always been told can't be allied with one another. When you have this homosexual activist that is responsible for getting the Amish out to vote for Donald Trump, I mean, you just, that by itself, it's just a fascinating thing. And of course, on a broader scale, you get, the Tulsi Gabbards, the JFK Juniors, or RFK Juniors, these Democrats, this entire spectrum, and all of these people, left, right, middle, and gay, straight, black, white, all of these people just coming together. There was a couple of weeks before the election, you had, at an actual event, Jewish and Muslim leaders together on stage promoting Donald Trump. It's just, I think that is to me, that's the strength in America. They talk, strength is in our diversity, and it's like, okay, but what do you mean by that? Get all these bumper sticker things thrown out there. When you have people whose personal beliefs are not in line with one another, and their personal lifestyles, their religious beliefs, but hey, we're Americans, and here's a guy that we think is definitely better for America overall, and all these people come together, not because of their color, not because of their religion, not because of their sexual orientation. Those things are irrelevant, but because of what is best for the country, and therefore best for the average American in this country. That, to me, is where the strength lies in America. And I just love seeing this stuff. I also love watching the press try to deal with this guy because he's gay. And, okay, well, geez, I mean, we don't have to love the guy, but we got to be careful about how we trash on the guy. There's and I do have an audio clip I want to play for a reason, but Town Hall has a story about a CNN segment they did on Scott Pressler. It's about a 6.5-minute piece. And the title is, CNN did a segment on a controversial Trump supporter, there's only one problem. And among other things, it noted that as he's referred to as controversial. Never once, and I watched the entire piece, never once do they explain why he's controversial. To the left, controversial is anyone they disagree with. Anyone they disagree with. That is controversial. For you to not believe the things that they believe, for you to not support the same candidates or elected officials that they support, to them, that makes you controversial. And it's so ingrained in them and instinctual that they will label somebody controversial but never even think to mention why they think this person is controversial. And they never do. It's just a label they throw on anyone that they disagree with. Here is So Pressler makes a point in his postings and when communicating with those who are fans or followers of his. And anytime he talks about going out and being activated, if you would, politically, he's always talking about doing it peacefully. And this reporter from CNN asked him about that.
I noticed that when you urge people to action,
Yes.
you often include the word
Peacefully.
Is that to avoid another Jan 6 type incident?
With all due respect, it's to avoid people like you guys saying that I'm anything but. My motto is to just be super cute, have my data and facts, treat everyone with love and respect. And as you can see, an army of people will follow.
So here, the premise of this guy's real good in dealing with the media. He is very, very good. To not lose his temp, he's like, listen, with all due respect, it's because people like you will label me as being, and hey, my goal is to be cute and to be effective. These networks, the demonization, the pictures they paint. Here you've got a member of the LGBTQ plus community that's getting people out to vote. He's an openly and clearly Trump supporter. And so even proactively encouraging people to be peaceful, how do they see it? Well, that must be for nefarious reasons. Instead of, hey, that's fantastic. Here's a guy that in this day and age, where you've got all sorts of rifts in society and the temperature is raised and there's so much negativity. Here's a guy that has a tremendous number of followers who is encouraging people to get out there and be peaceful about it. And isn't that fantastic? That's not how CNN sees it. CNN sees it as, I guess you're doing this in order to prevent another insurrection. Whether it is intentional or dimensional, if that's even a word, these networks are filled with true deranged individuals. Only a deranged person can have a conversation with someone whose one of their main themes is peaceful activism. But because they're a Trump supporter, see it as simply trying to cover his butt. So whenever his supporters try to overthrow the government, then he's protected. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Traffic update.
Springfield's Talk 1041. Sarah Myers here. We've got a little rain in the forecast, and if your roof just simply cannot handle one more rainfall, I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, whether you need a whole new roof, a simple roof repair, or even commercial roofing, the Pyramid Roofing Company, they've got you covered. They offer free roof inspections for you. They also do discounts for our military and our first responders on new roof installs, and they will work through that insurance process without making you sign anything. They're currently about 2 weeks out for new roof installs, so if it is time to have the Pyramid team out to do that free roof inspection for you, go ahead and schedule that with Josh today. Now, you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com. All right, that first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we do have a slight chance for showers in the afternoon and then cloudy skies with a high around 53. Tonight, patchy drizzle between midnight and 3 a.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 31. For your Thanksgiving, mostly sunny with a high near 40, and on Friday, sunny skies with a high near 39.
The fourth or fifth season of Yellowstone underway, and the creator of that, Taylor Sheridan, has a new show that launched in I think the same time as the most recent season or half season of Yellowstone, and it's called Landman. Have you seen anything about this? It's oil industry, Texas, and it has Billy Bob Thornton in it. It has Demi Moore in it. It has John Hamm in it. John Hamm is this big oil executive guy. Demi Moore is his wife. And Billy Bob Thornton plays this character, and he's called the Landman, and he essentially is sort of the on-the-ground guy who takes care of the problems, or whenever they need to lease land, he's the one who goes in, deals with the people, and his character's job, if you will, is presented as one of the most dangerous in the industry. And you get, because it's Texas, there's a lot of cross connecting with drug cartels and so forth, because just the area itself, not collaborative so much, but hey, we have to learn to live together sort of scenario. We started watching it because we like Yellowstone. I like Billy Bob Thornton. I think Billy Bob Thornton is one of my favorite actors. I just really like him. He's an actor that I can watch, and I don't think, oh, I'm watching Billy Bob Thornton like a lot of actors. You know, you watch Tom Cruise. Movies are great, does a great job, but it's Tom Cruise. I'm watching a Billy Bob Thornton film or something, and he makes me get lost in the character, if you will. So yeah, let's watch it. Now, the first episode, I'm leading up to some audio I want to play, because the most recent released episode has a scene that's going viral, and I was going to play the audio for you. The show itself, I'm giving it a chance as it gets into it further. I'm enjoying it more. I felt that the first episode, they way rushed character development. It was like forced. They took what could have been half a season's worth of character development, tried to cram it into the first episode. Ali Larder plays the ex-wife of Billy Bob Thornton's character, and in the first couple of episodes, every one of the scene that she's in, it's via FaceTime, and I don't know, it felt a little forced, the whole thing in the first episode and part of the second episode, but I'm just telling you that in case you decide to watch it. That's my thought on it. But I do find it interesting, the oil industry component to it. Now, how much of it is realistic, I don't know. When these things come out, oftentimes you will eventually get people that are in those industries to comment on whether they're realistic or not. But there's this subplot going on in which one of the facilities, the facility at one of their locations, there was an explosion. And so Billy Bob Thornton tells his boss, you need to send someone from this attorney's office out of Austin or wherever it was to come down here, because we're going to have all these government agencies all over us, and so we need representation. I think this particular office they had on retainer. Well, they end up sending someone that's very antagonistic. It's a woman, and immediately Billy Bob Thornton's character and this young gal attorney character, they do not get off to a very good start. She goes into it. She's supposed to be there essentially to help him, representing the firm, to prepare and to protect him legally. But it becomes very clear that she's taking the opposite approach. So Billy Bob Thornton begins to fear. I don't want to give too much away. So what eventually happens is he takes her out to see the facility, and at some point they're standing there and she sees way off in the distance windmills, the big electricity generating windmills, and she makes some somewhat snide remark to him about oh, I bet you don't like those, do you? The oil industry, and then all this green energy. So he says, get in the truck, I want to show you something. So he drives her out to him, and he tells her that we're off the grid here. So these are actually running all of our stuff. And the conversation it's gone somewhat viral online goes from there. And I think the reason is because, to a degree, it speaks truth. In any time in entertainment out of Hollywood, there is the truth spoken. When it comes to environmental issues, it goes viral because it's refreshing. And so he's explaining to her that, hey, these windmills, they actually are facilitating our industry.
Please, Mr. Oilman, tell me how the wind is bad for you.
Do you have any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit out here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that thing or winterize it? and its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic, your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap and hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every thing. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's going to kill us all as a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative. And believe me, if Exxon thought them things right there were the future, they'd be putting them all over the damn place. Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world. We don't do it because we like it. We do it because we run out of options. And you're out here trying to find something to blame for the danger besides your boss. There ain't nobody to blame but the demand that we keep pumping.
So that's the scene that's going viral from that new show, Landman. And again, it's not written to be pro-oil. I think it's just pro-realistic. And what you have are this idea of people on the left that that the reason oil exists in the form that it is used is simply because the oil industry wants it to. It's like drugs, and you have to get people hooked on it in order for them to want it. And that if it weren't for the oil industries, then we wouldn't have this problem. And the realistic approach that Billy Bob Thornton's character is explaining to this seemingly left-leaning young attorney is that, it's because it's needed. And he notes with the windmills, if Exxon thought if trust me, that is not in any way, shape, or form the future. If it was, Exxon would be doing it. Exxon would have those things all over the place. The reason they don't is because they recognize that is not a viable form of energy. And this fantasy world that some people want to live on is just funny because, we were talking earlier segment that Alec Baldwin talked about how ignorant people are when it comes to the environment. The ignorance is lying in this idea that the so-called clean energy or green energy is green, which it is not. It is not clean. At least when the left, their versions of it, the solar panels, the lithium batteries, the windmills, these things are in no way, shape, or form green or good for the environment. And it isn't just about putting gasoline in your car. It's in everything. And so while people want to portray the oil companies as inherently evil, who have just found this stuff in the ground and thought, hey, let's make this product and get people addicted to it, they're simply selling what people desperately need and what they use every day. And until there is some other reliable replacement, this is what's going to be used. And again, his character's pointing out don't even get me started on solar panels and lithium batteries, and because that is not it. If it were, then the evil, because what is it that we hear the oil companies? It's all about money, 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 money. Well, if solar panels and if all of those were the answer in terms of a total replacement. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those individual products, but if those were going to be a reliable replacement, then those companies would be all over it because it's about money. But it's not for a reason. Anyway, that show, I don't know whether you'd be interested in it or not. I've gotten to where I like it. If Billy Bob Thornton were not in it, I'm not even sure that I would have started to watch it. But it is, from the developer and creator of Yellowstone, so it has a similar feel. The pacing's a bit faster, and character development, as I mentioned, I thought it was a little bit rushed. But anyhow, you may like it. You may want to check it out. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Oh, you said so you had family in a Billy Bob Thornton film?
Yeah, I did. It was called Crystal. It came out in 2004, I think.
What was it about?
Honestly, I can't even remember.
Why were they in it?
They were extras.
No, I know, but how did that happen?
Oh, so they had like a casting call. It was filmed just right over the Arkansas state line, and so they were in this little fight scene between Billy Bob Thornton and then they had another main character.
Oh.
Yeah.
A number of you, let's see, Billy Bob Thornton will always be Carl to me. Them taters. One of my brothers does a very good Billy Bob Thornton, well, a Carl impersonation, I should say. So a couple of different, I'm just going to read some of the text messages that have come in, different subject matter on the show this morning, talking about, well, let me just read it to you. We travel abroad. While in Germany immediately after the election, the Germans we talked to were very excited about Trump's overwhelming victory. Guess Sharon Stone didn't go to Germany. When we were on The Great Escape in Mexico, there were a number of people that the different Great Escape listeners that we would run into from Canada in particular. And we had one, his name was Justin. He was a young Canadian, used to be a lefty, but he had become a huge Trump fan. And there were a number of people from, one was from Portugal. There was a couple. They were both from Canada at the time, but one originally Portugal is a gay couple. And I didn't get a chance to meet them, but one of the other listeners met them and talked with them. And they were very excited about Trump being president of the United States. So, it goes to show you that I think the media has been somewhat effective in convincing us that the rest of the world just looks at us and shakes their head and thinks Trump is awful. See, a lot of what the media reports that is incorrect in this country, we know it's incorrect because we live in this country. When they were trying to pretend that the border was secure, when they were trying to pretend that inflation wasn't that big of a deal, we knew they were lying. When they were telling us that Joe Biden was perfectly mentally fit, we knew they were lying because we see that. But most of us aren't in other countries. Most of us don't on a daily basis have conversations with people in other countries. So when the media will portray us as an embarrassment to the world, that everyone just shakes their head and thinks what we're doing, if you don't travel abroad, we don't know any better. And it's not to say that the opposite is true and that every citizen in every other country thinks Trump is wonderful, but the fact that you can randomly run into people as we did on The Great Escape, or as this person who went to Germany after the election did, and people, oh, you're from America, isn't Donald Trump that happens on a somewhat consistent basis, tells us that the way that we have been trained to believe in terms of the world's perceptions about us and about Donald Trump is inaccurate. Though, should we be surprised? I mean, clearly We absolutely should not. All right, I want to take a break and then a couple other text messages, plus a Gavin Newsom story demonstrating, again, what it is that these people claim Donald Trump is. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. I'd mentioned earlier, years ago, a conversation I had with a media person in Los Angeles, and she had never seen a cow in real life before. And just how that got me thinking about life experiences. And I found it somewhat humorous because oftentimes, particularly media people on the left, in the sophisticated worlds of Los Angeles and New York, they see us as unworldly. And I thought, you haven't even seen a cow before. I mean, it's just, different world experiences, and how you can have never seen a cow before yet think that you're so much more worldly than country folk are. And someone texted in, basketball players from New York that come for the Tour of Champions have never seen dirt before. And I believe that too, as weird and strange as that may be. And it doesn't mean that they're less sophisticated, people who live in cities and have never actually seen a cow or dirt or climbed a tree. But it certainly doesn't mean that they're more sophisticated. And there is this stereotype that has been created by the left that if you live in a metropolitan area, big city, that you are more worldly, more educated, more sophisticated than hillbilly folk, than hicks throughout the flyover states. And I would just argue that is nowhere close to true. Things go straight to hell. Whom do you think will be relying on who? Or whom? Gavin Newsom's proposed California EV credit. This is something that he has said if Trump takes away, let's call it corporate welfare, subsidizing by way of tax credits people to buy products from certain companies, that be electric vehicles. And Trump or someone from the Trump camp, there's a news story about how that is something that may be eliminated. And Gavin Newsom has said, well, in California, I'll just put it back into place. Well, okay, fine. Why don't you do that now? But according to Newsom's office, that current proposal includes market share limitations that would exclude most or all of Tesla EV models. In other words, Elon Musk stuff. Now, Elon Musk, though it is clear he is going to have a place in this administration, still at this point is nothing but a U.S. citizen. This is the sort of vengeful government power that you see in Putin's Russia or in Venezuela, in which the people in power financially punish citizens because they don't support them. This is tyranny. And it's everything, as usual, that the left falsely claims Donald Trump is. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving.